It's the video that's hard to watch for just about anyone. On August 13, 2012, a pit bull named Star was left scrambling after its owner, a homeless man, suffered a seizure on an East Village sidewalk. Confused, the pit lunged at an officer and was shot in the face.
Why are you getting the dog? Why are you trying to get the dog? Haven't seen you call.
Hello, subscribers. Hello, others. It's David Hoffman, filmmaker. You know, a while ago, I posted this video on a horse, and it affected a lot of you. And one of the people it affected is the person I'm going to talk to just about now. And he understands, like so many of us do, that animals are sentient. And something happened to him with a dog that is viral, national news, big time, but I get the chance to ask him about why. So first of all, I just want to make this honest statement to the audience. It says, all dogs go to heaven. All dogs go to heaven. That's exactly what I feel. I'm willing to bet money that's exactly what Charlie feels. So Charlie, had you had dogs before the story you're about to tell me?
David, I really can connect with dogs. They know me, I know them. And I did have a connection with a dog. I had a dog that I lost as a young man, and it never left my heart. It's a pretty emotional story, but it's a dog that got hit by 2 cars and survived. But I was a young guy. My parents took the dog, and I never got the dog back, and I never saw the dog again. So it's always was on my heart.
Well, that helps me understand the story you're about to tell me. So this is Star, everybody. You're looking at a picture of Star right now. She's Charlie's friend. Charlie, how did you get to Star?
I'm a New York guy. It's in my DNA. You know, I'm out in Nebraska, the middle of the country. And I was always checking the news of what went on in New York, always checking online, seeing what's going on in the Big Apple. And I saw a story of the headlines, a pit bull shot and killed. And there was a video below on the link. And I don't know why I hit it, but I did.
Why are you getting the dog? Why are you trying to get the dog?
And it tore at my heart like nothing's ever tore. I didn't realize at the time a flood of emotions. I thought of my dog Kane getting hit by 2 cars. And it never left me. It never left me. I didn't realize that it was compressed in me. And when that dog's story of being shot and killed because its owner had a seizure on a New York City sidewalk, the dog went into protection mode and the police shot the dog in the head and it said the dog was dead. And I looked at that video and it brought me back to 1989. It was like no time had ever elapsed. And I just said, this dog can't die. I don't care what the news says. This dog has got to live. And I'm the chief operations officer of a company. I got to keep my composure, especially a trash business. I mean, I got to be somewhat of a savvy, tough guy, but I fell apart. My emotions took me. And I called in all my staff. I called in the CEO, I called in the vice president, and I had them look at this video that was not an underground video, but it was a video. The dog being shot in New York City and the screaming and the agony. And they said, Charlie, it's sad, the dog died. I said, no, the dog didn't die. The dog did not die. That dog can't die. This story can't end that way. This story cannot end that way. I've already been hurt once. This dog has got to make it. And somehow, that dog didn't die. I called up the city. I called them up and I called up the Animal Care and Control. And I hit the administration prompts on the phone. And I got an admin on the phone. This lady, Renee, said, what do you want to know? And she punched into the computer or whatever. And she said, no, the dog is still alive. dog is still alive. And I called the vet, and I found out the dog was alive, and I just went, I went, it was the greatest moment. I feel like I got a second lease on life, and I don't know why this much pain was in me, but it was in me. The dog lived. I saw the worst scenario ever. And David, I gotta tell you, it's not that I'm faint-hearted. I mean, I worked death row, I've worked institutions, I grew up in New York, I'm in the trash business. I mean, I've had some heavy shots thrown at me in life. But what connected me to this story was that homeless man laying on the ground that nobody cared about, that even after his dog was shot and nobody went and tended on him, I felt like I was that guy. I felt like I was that guy, because I was that guy one time. I was a guy that was heading nowhere. I was a guy that was addicted to alcohol, addicted to pain pills, addicted. I was a guy one time that nobody gave a second chance to. And when I saw that guy on that ground, and then I saw the way he was picked up by his wrist after 15, 20 minutes, nobody attending to him, and throwing him on the gurney like he was trash, like we throw trash into the back of a garbage truck, I was just like, wow, it woke me up. And at the time, probably was doing the best I've ever done financially, wearing the best clothes, had a big office, had a desk the size of a Lincoln Continental. I mean, a Lincoln Continental hood. Remember those from the 70s with Frank Cannon? There's an old nostalgia. So all this came about, and I've never been the same after that. I've never been the same after that. I went from a scorekeeping transactional man to a man that feels and is okay with feeling. But that dog lived. And even though that dog lived, the headlines had to undo what they said. The NYPD spokesperson said, well, the dog is alive, but prognosis is bad. Oh no, oh no. I did everything I could to keep this story alive. I threw every bit of energy, and I got the world to pray for this dog with me. And this dog made a lightning speed recovery.
New York City 2012 is where this dog's story begins and nearly comes to an end. Different media outlets reporting news of the New York street dog shot in the face and killed by police. Or so was the original story.
At the end of this, when I thought it was all over, it got better.
Oh, Charlie, I have heard many a story in my time, thousands.
Yes.
And I have seen many a storyteller. But I have never heard or seen anyone better than you. You're a lover of animals. You're a mensch of a guy.
Jen!
You're learning in your life, but I'm telling you, more unique is your incredible ability to tell that beautiful story, and you didn't come to the end of it. So let me just say, keep on going, please, because me and everybody who's watching you wants to hear what happened here.
So, David, the dog lived. The dog lived. And after you go and tell the public that the dog died, and after you say the prognosis is not good, you have a dead dog that lived. And then when you really start to take apart the video, 10 minutes, 15-minute video that went viral, people start to ask, well, if it was a humanitarian effort, you shot the dog, why didn't you offer aid to the man? So there became a lot of dialogue here. So what occurred is the dog lived. And then the dog, believe it or not, went quiet. The dog went into hiding. The dog went from being owned by the homeless man, Lex Stankowitz, to then being temporarily owned by a defense fund in New York City for dogs. Then the dog became property of the New York City Mayor's Alliance. And then the dog quietly was sent to Philadelphia because the dog story needed to go away. And I start her Facebook page, which has about 100,000 followers, Star of the New York Pit Bull. And I'm doing radio, I'm doing articles, but the dog is off the grid. Somehow, some way, I just don't get tired. I don't get tired. See, David, I had a void in me. I had a hole in my heart, okay? I had a hole in my heart. I grew up in New York, and I went the wrong way. I was set to be a police officer in 1984. I had taken a test. I had done everything I was supposed to do to have a good life growing up in Long Island, born in New York City. Somehow, some way, the nightclub scene, the partying, sidetracked me. And I wound up not doing the things I was supposed to do in life. But I got a second chance. I got a second chance. Like I believe everybody deserves a second chance. I wound up out in Nebraska. And I wound up taking a test for corrections. And I wound up becoming a correctional officer. And I wound up being sober. And I'm still sober. And things happened for me. But the one thing that never happened was that hole that was in my heart for my original boyhood dog, who was a pit bull. His name was King. I got him from the streets of New York. I got him from East New York. I paid $70 for him in 1988. I was on Atlantic Avenue in Brooklyn, a neighborhood you wouldn't want to be found dead in, and I got this dog. I saw him on a short leash on a hot summer day. He had no water in his bowl, and I said, this is no good. And I had, at the time, a soda delivery route in them neighborhoods that, by the grace of God, I'm alive. I mean, I paid $70 for Kane, and he became my best friend. We went to work every day. We hung out every day. I remember having no money, Dave. I remember having no money. And I'd go through a Burger King drive-thru. And I tell the person I got no money, but my dog is hungry. They give us a couple of burgers. That's how low addiction can take you. That's how crippling it could take a person. And it took me out. And it took me out. And I got a second chance. Like the story, It's a Wonderful Life with Jimmy Stewart. Well, Lincoln, Nebraska, it was my Bedford Falls, right in the middle of the country. Never even got a parking ticket in Lincoln, Nebraska. It's like God blessed me there. It's like things changed overnight. And I wound up seeing where I would go if I would have continued. God gave me a job in corrections. I did a good job. I was by the book, but the inmates loved me. I got out, they wanted to hug me because I was consistent. I was consistent. People want consistency, especially those guys. So I worked corrections, got an old house, started bringing stuff to the dump. Little by little, I realized my neighbors needed stuff brought to the dump. I started the trash business from scratch. Sold the trash business. Then get hired by a national company to be their COO. It was a second career. A third career. Corrections was one, my trash business was two, and this was a third shot. And I thought I was okay. That's the thing. I thought I was okay. The credit score was there. No debt. Big black shiny Mercedes. A current one too. I thought I was okay. I even got the gold watch, but I wasn't. I didn't fix what was broken in me. I didn't address that pain. And I didn't know that there'd be a crowbar named Star, and her unlikely owner would come across that internet, and I'd watch that video, and my life would change. I would change as a person, and I would start to do different things. Since that scenario, I'm at peace like there's never been peace before. I don't want to be in conflict with anything. I'll go out of my way to open a door in the house to let a house fly out. He's got his own life. I don't want to take any form of life. I don't want to be part of anything. And at the end of the day, I've always been a thinker. I've always been a thinker. I sat on death row with guys that would murder one person, and they had the death penalty. Then there'd be guys that had murdered 4 people, and they didn't give that person a death penalty. And I started to just in my life go, wow, how does this work? Yes, I started to think, if you don't got the money, the capital, you're going to get the punishment. That's an old cliche. But I started to think as a younger guy, I've always been thinking, I've always had questions. But this story and what happened to Star has just been a life changer. So, Star is now no longer in the news. We don't know much about Star. We know that the Mayor's Alliance had her. There was one post that she's going for rehab, and that's the end of the story. Not for me. Not for me. I spent months of my life as no longer able to be a productive member of anything but working on finding the story. I had set up in my office, and I had the biggest whiteboard brought in. It covered the whole wall. And I made different lines on it. Who had this dog? Where is this dog? And I watched and watched and watched. I had to find this dog. And I would call up shelters, and I would ask, do you have a one-eyed pit bull? Do you have a brown pit bull, one-eye? They released a photograph, and it narrowed it down for me, because the photograph had no front plates on any of the cars where Star was. And I went to an arborist. And I said, where does this foliage look like? Well, it's the Northeast. I'm in Nebraska at the time. And I started to look at all this. I knew no front plate meant Pennsylvania. I knew no front plate meant Pennsylvania. And I kept on searching for her. And eventually, I got someone on the line that said, yes, they had a one-eyed pit bull. But her name now is Shiloh. Must not be the same dog. I didn't know that the staff where this dog was, the dog had been renamed. So they didn't know this dog with this infamous or famous or global history. This story went global. We're at Barnes & Noble looking for Dogster magazine, and we found it. We've been told that Star's in this month's issue. We'll take a look for old Starzy. And here she is. There's her story. Okay, well, we're sure to get a copy. Matter of fact, we're gonna grab all the copies. Her Facebook tells me I have people from all over the world. I've got people that message me from Syria that tell me on Facebook, this is a wonderful thing I've done for this dog. You see, David, I've learned from this dog. I used to be a citizen of the United States. I was a guy that grew up in the 80s when it was the USA against Russia with the hockey and go USA, and that's me. But I'm not a guy that flies much. I'm a simple man. So my USA kind of ended at California. It went as far as Maine. I never really even thought of Hawaii and Alaska. Even though people talk about it, I never thought in a million years that I would go on a plane anywhere. So when Star got shot, I became a citizen of the world. I looked at things differently. I said, wait a minute. I got people from Ireland reaching out to me. I've got people from the furthest parts of the world. I got people from Vietnam reaching out to me on this Facebook. I got people that are talking to me in languages I don't know. I got to put it in the Bing translator. What is this? I got to copy paste. I started to get pretty good at, Facebook does it now. It has a translation, but back then in 12, it wasn't doing that. So I had to figure out what language is this, and then I would answer them in their own language. So all this stuff was happening, and I became understanding that when people would reach out, I've sent Star's hair to a family that had a child that was dying of cancer because they needed hope. You see, David, Star, I've had her at Alzheimer's functions where little boys and little girls hug Star because Star is a beautiful, kind, wonderful, big-hearted dog that has such a wonderful disposition. And one gentleman says, would you mind if I hugged your dog? He was a big gentleman, older than me. And I said, sure. I said, sir, can you tell me your background? He says, I'm a federal judge. And I said to myself, geez, she does reach a lot of different people. And I've had police officers, the main thing with the Star story, and especially now, it's not to demonize police officers. There's 600,000 of them. There's more than that probably in the US. Think about all the calls that go on. They love dogs. They have dogs. The dogs are misunderstood, and sometimes like this breed is really misunderstood. So at the end of the day, it's knowledge and training that will make the difference. That is the main thing with Star Story. People wanted me, and at first I was angry at the police officer. How could you shoot the dog? The dog was charging. He didn't know. He shot the dog. He felt bad later. He talked about it in another news situation. But Star Story is not to demonize the police. Star Story is actually a bringing together of everyone.
After jumping through countless hoops and red tape with the city's animal care and control, he finally got some results when the Mayor's Alliance set up a date between Cifarelli and Star at a Pennsylvania adoption kennel.
I get a break. I find a dog. But the Mayor's Alliance owns the dog. And I have to abide by a lot of rules. They'll let me come visit this dog all the ways out in this Philadelphia shelter. She's in rehabilitation. And I fly out from Nebraska to meet Star. And when I meet Star, it's really a surreal situation. It was like, I gotta tell you, people always say, who would you want to meet? Who can you sit down on a bench with? Of course, there's always the big ones if you've lost your father or you want to meet Jesus or whatever it is. But this dog was there. It was at the top of the list for me. It wasn't Elvis Presley. It was a big deal. It was a big deal. So I agreed to all the terms. I couldn't tell anybody I was meeting this dog, even though I got 100,000 fans. I can't tell them I'm meeting the dog. They'll cover the story. They'll cover the photos. So I go and I meet this dog. And this dog is classical music being played for it at a certain time. And this dog is in an isolation room, 20 by 20. It's incredible. This story is just, you can't make this up. You've heard of Jimmy Hoffa, meet Star. So I meet her. And when I meet her, I'm taken back by her. You open up a steel door that has a sign on it that only a certain person, the director, can open this door. And behind this door, there's a gate. And behind that gate, there's this dog. And my first impression was, this is the dog? Where's the rest of her? This is a small dog. This dog doesn't even come up to my knee. This dog is about 49 pounds. I'm a dog guy. I'm like, okay, this is the dog. And I have to just take it. So I meet the dog, and she's shy. With Star, you have to put your hand under her chin. Under her chin. Now, of course, she's been shot, but you have to put your hand under her chin, and that's the way she likes it. And she'll sit, and she'll give the biggest smile. This dog, see, she was a homeless man's dog, and they would panhandle together. That's how they survived. And through panhandling, every time she'd get $1 for him, or any change, she'd give a big smile. But it's a very brief amount of time you get Star's attention. She'll smile, and then she's off to somebody else. So she smiled, and that was it. So I took my coat off, I got on the floor, and I played with her. I got the bones, I had some treats in my pocket, and I played with her. And I couldn't believe this was happening. I couldn't believe that this celebrity dog, and that's what she is, because she's bigger than a celebrity, because she gives something to people, which is hope. Which is hope. I don't even want to name drop, but I've had one of the biggest ministers in the country talk about Star to me in an email. And I'm humbled by that. And he said that we were going to go on to do greater things. he said that we were just starting the path. We were just starting the path, that we would go on and do greater things. Well, my time with her was, several hours. I got to visit her the next day and I had to go back to Nebraska. But Star's a smart dog too, David. She's a character, and you named that to me in an email or the video chat. You knew that Star's a character. And how she's a character is this. She's smart. She'll laugh with you, but she's thinking. And she knew these treats were in my brown coat pocket. And I hung this coat up. And I went back to the office and talked to the director. She climbed up as high as she had to go to get my coat, to get the treats. But not disturb my coat, but get in the inside pocket and chew the inside pocket out and get the treats. So I had no idea that I had blanks on me when I got back from talking to the director, put my coat on, got ready to say goodbye to her for the day, and went for a treat, and there was no treats. They were all gone. They were all gone. She had got the treats. So this New York City dog is a character. So I wind up going back to Nebraska, and I think my work is done. I go like this. Phew, that worked out. Dog is safe. They wrote a nice article about it. It hit the internet. There was nice photographs of Star and the dog. I wasn't allowed to take any photographs. I wasn't allowed to use my phone at the time. The story was thrown out there, and it was a nice story. And Star was treated very, very well. And that's because the owner, the director of this facility, has got a heart of gold. He's tough. He's a Philadelphia native. He's tough. But he showed me some emotion. And I saw that I wasn't the only one that gets some tears in their eyes for this dog. This dog could get a lot of people with rain in their eyes. And he let me know enough that the dog would be treated well. They would find an owner for this dog one day. The dog had a new name, Shiloh. And my job was done, David. My job was done. I was done. I did it. I wanted to return to my own life. I had enough of this emotional stuff, man. I wanted to be tough again. It wasn't going to happen. I got back to Nebraska. I said to everybody, including one person, the most important person that helped me on the path. I said, Jen, I'm done. I said, Star has got a home right now, and she'll wind up with a home. She goes, you're done. She goes, we just hit the first inning. She goes, this story's not over. You're a man that knows statistics. What's the chance of a dog like this living out the rest of her life with a good family, knowing that this dog has a history? They probably wouldn't even give this dog the opportunity to have a family like that. The dog probably will never see a chance at a long life. Something could happen. You got to get the dog. I said, I'm the last person I want to give the dog to. I'm the dog guy that started all the problems with the dog. The dog was supposed to die, go off the grid, and never be seen or heard from again. I created all this. She goes, you are going to get the dog, mister. I said, geez. I said, this doesn't even look good. So, David, at the time, I wasn't prepared to have a dog. I wasn't prepared. I had downsized my life. I had got a closet full of nice clothes, and I was just getting ready to be older. I was getting ready to minimalize. The last thing I was thinking of is a house with a big yard. That was the last thing I was thinking about. I wanted no yard. I wanted a condominium. I wanted snow and grass. I wanted no home. So Jen says, you got to find a home, the right home for this dog. I mean, we're back to another movie. It's like now I'm in, Miracle on 34th Street. I want the home with the fireplace in the yard. I mean, how did this all happen? I mean, how did this all happen? Well, I did something different. Instead of getting the dog, I went and got the house first, and I put up the fence, and I got everything in place for the dog. Like I was going to welcome a child home. I got the yard. I got a tall fence, David. I didn't get a 6-foot fence. I got an 8-foot fence, and I had to get special permits for this. And I had an established neighborhood in Lincoln, Nebraska. If you haven't been to Lincoln, Nebraska, one of the things I like about Lincoln, Nebraska, that's just a place of its own. It's not the West, it's not the East, it's not the North, it's not the South. It's right in the middle. It's got the best people. They're fair-minded, and they kind of let you knock yourself out. And if you're a little out there, they just call you goofy. Not like the East Coast, they'll use some choice words. So I got this home. I move in. The neighbors have been there for quite a bunch of years. It's a nice established neighborhood, big lawns. Nobody has a fence. So I put up this 8-foot fence. The neighborhood's coming unglued. I've got one of my neighbors. He's a decorated Air Force pilot from World War II who's a judge who just retired. We retired a number of years ago, but he's a very well-respected judge. And he looks, he shakes his head. Then my other neighbor's a professor. What are you doing to the neighborhood? What are you doing? We don't have fences here. It looks ugly. They have no idea that I am trying to adopt a famous pit bull from New York City. So as time would go on, eventually I was selected that I could adopt this dog. And it was no easy task. It wasn't like, let's give it to the guy in Nebraska, but I made sense. If the dog would ever rebite somebody, who would be the best guy to rebite? Would be me. I wouldn't be able to say anything. I mean, the dog that I stood up for became this dog. It was a long process. It took a long time. It took months and months and months. I finally adopted the dog. I drove out to Philadelphia with a minivan. First time and only time I ever drove a minivan. And I got the dog. I got a minivan so she'd be comfortable. And I brought the dog quietly back home. Nobody knew I had the dog. Until things started to happen. There are wise people in the Midwest. They call it the flyover states. Not to me, they're not. I mean, there's some wise people in the Midwest. A man I knew, a customer of mine in the trash business, saw me walking this dog. And he asked me, he says, Charlie, your dog's missing an eye. Where'd you get this dog? Oh, I adopted her. Oh. What happened to her? Well, I don't know really the history of what happened. I know she was in some type of accident. Okay. All right. Well, nice talking to you, Charlie. This was a guy that had questions like me. He thought about it. Next time he saw me, he had more questions. He goes, hey, Charlie, I got to ask you a question. I know you, and you ask questions. So you tell me you got a dog that's got no eye, missing part of her skull from the injury, and you don't know any of her background? Little did I know, this guy is pretty savvy, and he's got a younger son, and they're all over YouTube, and they saw the video of Star being shot, and they started to put 2 and 2 together. So he just covered as much as he wanted to at that time. And then finally, because he's been a customer of my trash business for a lot of years, he said, look, I got to ask you, is it possible that your brown and white pit bull is the same pit bull I'm seeing on YouTube that was shot by the New York City police? Is it just possible, Charlie? They look identical. I said, Rob, I can't lie. I said, yeah, that's the same dog. And he hugged me. He said, I don't know how you did it. I don't know how the dog's here, but you did it. You got the dog. He says, you know, a lot of people don't believe the dog lived. He goes, on YouTube, they think the dog died. He goes, and it's up and down. Some people think the dog should have got shot because they don't like pit bulls. Some want the dog to live, but they don't know, Charlie.
It's not that Star is so small, it's that she's up against a 10-foot fence. What do you think of that, honey?
I got this dog, and the dog has got some unusual mannerisms that are not like a regular dog from Nebraska. So the dog, after getting the dog, I realized that I had a beautiful yard that didn't make her happy. I got Woods Park close by. I took her to the park. It didn't make her happy. I started to realize that the dog liked to walk in the street, the concrete. And then I realized the dog started to get sad. What do I got to do to make this dog happy? The dog, David, is an unusual dog. She's not a big eater. You're not going to woe her with meat or something like that. It's not going to be her treat.
I just got a hamburger for my dog Star from Wendy's. Lucky you, Star. I got a plain hamburger, which isn't too plain. I asked him for nothing on it. Here you go, sweetie. Star, this is me. Star, you're a pit bull. This is me. Star, this is a Wendy's hamburger. Well, as you folks see, she wants no part of it, so we're not going to force the issue. Star, I don't know if it's GMO, I don't know what it is, but obviously you don't like it, and I'm not going to force it on you.
I couldn't hide the lie no more. Even though I adopted her under an assumed name, I couldn't do it anymore. I could not do this anymore. And I said, I'm going to come out and tell the story. Well, I go to vote. Shortly after all these news situations come out. And I'm up at the voting booth, and the judge is there. And he comes up to me. And he's a tall man, real tall. Carries himself just unbelievable. And he leans down and he says to me quietly, "How's that special dog doing?" I said, "Judge, you know." He goes, "Yeah, I know." He goes, "The determination of you putting that fence up and the shenanigans of getting that yard ready and everything that went on, I knew." I said, "No, the neighborhood." He goes, "It's calm waters. We know what you did." The neighborhood was fine. The neighborhood was fine. And that's the acceptance. That's what I love about the Midwest people, Lincoln. I mean, I wouldn't get that kind of acceptance in New York, in the town I grew up in Merrick. In my own town, they probably want to, they might have her. They'd send me out for the guy that brought it, that created all the fencing and stuff. So that occurred. So at that point, there's no more secret. I've got the dog. I've got the dog. And we do some things, David. We go up to, and when I'm a young man in my 20s, and I burned up all the rehabs. You know, you can only go to rehab so many times. If it doesn't take, it doesn't take. Long story short, I go to Graymore in upstate New York as a young man, and it takes. I go up to the Mountain of Hope, and I get clean. I get off alcohol. I don't take any pills. I don't look to get out of this body. I grow some emotional muscle. I take Star in 2018 back to the Mountain of Hope. And they write in their newsletter, "Charlie and Star came to visit, and they travel around the country offering their stories of redemption and hope for others." This dog has been the greatest thing that has ever happened to my life. If this dog didn't come into my life, I'd just be another guy. You know what? Just another guy. Wow, that guy eats 6 small meals a day. That guy can run. That guy knows how to buy a nice car. Big deal. Big deal. It'll be a life of self-consumption. This dog and her nonprofit and everything we've done to help other dogs has put the greatest people in my life.
The STAR Project, also called Saving Those at Risk. It's a local nonprofit dedicated to finding homes for dogs who are in danger of being euthanized. The project raises money to help spay and neuter animals and to place innocent dogs into loving homes.
The difference with me is I see people as people. We are human beings, not human doings. Prior to the dog, I was calculating. Can this person lead me to this? Can I get another trash contract? Will this work? Will that? That's all gone. That's all gone. That's all gone. And I noticed one other thing, David, that's very important to me with Star. It's got 100,000 followers or more. I started to look at the people that support Star. And I started to look at their photos on Facebook. Yeah, I've got some time on my hands now. Not in the trash business anymore. Do some consulting work. And I noticed one common denominator. Some of the poorest places that support Star, and you can see the homes are just small little homes in South America. Small. The whole home might be 500 square feet. But people take pictures with their animals, and they're all at a table and they're all smiling. And they're all in one room. And they don't have much, it looks like, to what we know in the United States, and they look the happiest. Star has taught me your net worth will never make your self-worth feel better. It just won't. This dog has connected me to some of the greatest human beings that I've ever have encountered. And that's why your story of the smartest horse that ever lived moved me so much. Because I think that Bill Key thought that Jim Key could make him a complete human being. And that's what an animal can do. They could diminish the strongness in our personality, the part that doesn't connect with other humans, because there's ego involved in that, and bring out the greatest part of our insides. And that is humanity that connects us. And that's what I'm connected to. That's what I'm connected to now with this dog.
You did it, man. You did it. You put it down. I wrote you that I felt you ought to tell how you felt, Charlie, not the facts. You said, I understand, David. I did not know how well you understood. It's like you and the judge. So if you could I, and the people who are watching this video 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 generations from now, who know the same thing you and I know, and all the people watching know, could I see Star? Is she in your presence?
You know what? Let's get her out. Let's get her out to make an appearance. Can you hold on one second? That's my girl. She's a little camera shy, you see? She knows we're talking about her.
Oh, Charlie.
She knows we're talking about her. What do you think, Star? What do you think?
That's wonderful that she has given you what she's given you, but also so many other people.
She has impacted a lot of people. David, we're together now. It's 8 years since she's been shot. The thing is this, I went through a lot of pain to get where I'm at, and I'm on the other side of it now.
Yeah.
I'm on the other side.
Yeah, you're in a wonderful place.
It's good. She's got to go out. Thank you very much. Contact me for anything you need.
Bye-bye.
See you later. Bye-bye.
You too. God bless.
God bless you. Bye.